When a dog bites you, the wound is never merely on the skin. It is not simply a matter of teeth, of fear, of reflex. It is an encounter with something primal, something older than your rational mind, older even than civilization itself. A dog, after all, is both the loyal companion of man and the echo of the wolf, an animal that walks between the wild and the domestic. And when such a creature turns on you, when the trusted companion suddenly bares its teeth, the unconscious is speaking in a language that is older than words. It is telling you something about the archetype you have forgotten, or worse, chosen to ignore. We imagine life as a story of progress, of taming and conquering. We believe that through discipline and culture, we can smooth the rough edges of instinct. But instinct is not a thing to be erased. It is a thing to be respected, understood, and integrated. The dog, as symbol, is the faithful guardian of our own thresholds, the one who both protects and warns in myth, in dreams, in the deep corridors of our psyche. The dog is the gatekeeper of the underworld, the one who stands between the conscious self and the shadow realm we fear to enter. To be bitten by a dog is to be reminded that the shadow you have ignored, the part of you that is untamed and fiercely alive, is no longer willing to be subdued. The bite is a message, not a random accident. When I speak of archetypes, I am speaking of forces that are beyond mere personality. They are universal patterns, ancient symbols, energies that have shaped the human soul for thousands of years. They are not inventions of the mind, but rather the mind is a manifestation of them. Every culture has its guardians, its animal spirits, its protectors and hunters. The dog stands at this threshold as a paradox, both friend and threat, both loyal and wild. And so when the dog turns, when its teeth sink into flesh, what is it saying? It says, you have neglected me, you have locked away the instinct that once kept you alive. You have chosen to ignore the voice that warns of danger, the voice that demands vigilance. And now it speaks through pain, because you would not listen through intuition. In dreams, a dog is never just a dog. It is often a messenger, a symbol of loyalty, of guardianship, or of some primal energy that is either serving you or warning you. To dream of being bitten by a dog is to confront the betrayal sometimes of others, but more often of yourself. What part of you have you betrayed by living only for the approval of others? What natural instinct have you silenced because the world told you it was too fierce, too wild, too unruly to be acceptable? The bite awakens you to the truth that what you reject in yourself will one day turn against you. It is not the dog that is your enemy, but your refusal to honor the archetype it carries. The archetype of the guardian is one of the oldest in human history. Think of Anubis in the Egyptian pantheon, the jackal-headed god who guides souls into the afterlife. Think of Cerberus in Greek myth, the three-headed hound guarding the gates of Hades. These are not just stories of beasts and gods. They are reflections of the deep psyche, images of the forces that protect the soul's most sacred treasures. The dog is the keeper of boundaries. It knows who belongs and who does not. When it bites, it may be asking, who have you allowed to cross your inner threshold? Who or what have you invited into your psyche without discernment? Or perhaps it asks the opposite, whom have you locked out? Which aspect of your own wildness have you chained so tightly that it now rages for freedom? We are, all of us, torn between the civilized self and the animal self. The animal self is not evil, it is life itself, raw and unfiltered. It is the pulse of instinct, the sharpness of perception, the courage to fight, the wisdom to sense danger long before reason can comprehend it. The civilized self, however, fears this wildness. It prefers order, predictability, and control. It builds walls and fences and calls them safety, but the soul does not thrive in cages. What we suppress does not disappear. It waits, and like a dog pushed too far, to neglect it, it will snap. I recall the many patients who came to me, people who lived lives of quiet politeness, of careful conformity, and yet beneath the surface there was always a wild dog pacing in circles. Their dreams were filled with animals, with teeth, with growls in the night. They wondered why they felt restless, anxious, or inexplicably hostile. They could not see that the very parts of themselves they called unacceptable or shameful were simply their own instincts longing to protect them, longing to give them power and vitality. The dog bite, whether literal or symbolic, is a demand to reclaim what has been denied. Imagine for a moment a dream where you walk along a quiet path and a dog approaches. At first it is calm, its tail wagging, his eyes soft. But as you reach out, something shifts. A growl emerges from deep within its throat. Its teeth flash. You hesitate. Perhaps you feel fear. Perhaps you retreat. But if you ignore this animal, if you continue to walk blindly into the shadows, the bite will come. In this image, the dog is your shadow self, the part of you that knows where the boundaries are. The part that senses when you are in danger or when you have compromised your truth. And like the archetypal guardian, it will not allow you to pass unchallenged until you face what is hidden. There is something profoundly spiritual about the bite. Pain, after all, is one of the most direct teachers we have. When a dog bites you, the moment is stripped of all pretense. You cannot negotiate with the teeth. You cannot charm them with words. You are forced into the raw immediacy of the moment. This is how the unconscious works. It does not send polite letters. It sends dreams, accidents, synchronicities, sudden encounters that shock you awake. If you are bitten, either in life or in dream, ask yourself, what truth have I avoided so fiercely that only pain could reveal it? We live in a time where instinct is undervalued. We celebrate intellect, rationality, data, and yet the ancient rhythms of the psyche are not easily subdued. The dog is a reminder that intuition, the deep animal knowing, is still alive within you. Have you trusted it? Have you listened when something inside you said, this path is wrong, or person cannot be trusted. How many times have you ignored the growl of your inner guardian only to suffer the consequences later? The bite is a correction. It is the psyche's way of saying, wake up, return to your own knowing. Let us look deeper into the archetype you may be ignoring. Perhaps it is not just the guardian. Perhaps it is the warrior, the one who knows when to stand firm, when to fight for what is sacred. Many people today are afraid of their own strength. They associate aggression with evil, forgetting that there is a holy aggression, a force that protects, that defends, that establishes healthy boundaries. When the dog bites, it may be inviting you to reclaim this sacred fierceness, this ability to say, no, you will not cross this line. For if you do not claim your own boundaries, life will teach you through pain where they are. Think too of the dog as a symbol of loyalty. What have you been loyal to? And is it worthy of your loyalty? So many people are bitten not by external forces, but by the very life they have chosen to serve. They remain loyal to ideas or relationships or roles that no longer nourish their soul. They silence their instincts when something feels wrong because they fear the loss of approval. But the unconscious is ruthless in its honesty. The archetypes cannot be deceived. The bite comes when your loyalty has been misplaced. When the truth of your being demands to be heard, there is a strange paradox that emerges when we consider the bite of the dog, both as a symbol and as a reality. The pain it brings can awaken something far deeper than fear. It can call forth memory, not of events, but of instincts buried in the bones of our being. You see, the human psyche is not a blank slate, nor is it only shaped by childhood or society. It carries within it a heritage as ancient as the first sparks of consciousness. We carry the memory of the wild, of nights spent in caves, while the howls of wolves echoed in the darkness. We carry the memory of the moment we first tamed fire, first trusted a creature to guard our door. And in all these memories, the dog appears as both companion and challenger. Its bite, in the language of symbols, is a reminder that even the most loyal part of our psyche can turn when we ignore its warnings. The archetype of the dog is not just about loyalty or guardianship. It is about instinct. Instinct is not primitive in the sense that modern people imagine it. It is not merely reaction or impulse. Instinct is a form of intelligence that the rational mind cannot replicate. It is the wisdom of the body, the silent knowing, that tells you when something is right or wrong, long before you can explain why. When a dog bites you, symbolically speaking, it is this instinct that is saying enough. It is the moment when the part of you that has been ignored refuses to remain silent. Consider for a moment your own life. How often have you silenced the inner voice that warned you? How many times have you walked into situations that you knew deep down were not aligned with your truth? Perhaps you stayed in relationships that drained you because you feared being alone. Perhaps you pursued a career that had no meaning because the world told you it was secure and respectable. Each time you do this, you are turning your back on your own guardian, and eventually the guardian will demand your attention. Sometimes it is through illness, sometimes through sudden misfortune, sometimes through the bite of a symbolic dog that forces you to stop and confront what you have been avoiding. In dreams, a dog bite can appear as a sudden shock, a moment of fear, and yet, when analyzed, it often reveals a deeper truth. It might represent the betrayal of a friend, but more often, it is the betrayal of the self. You have betrayed your instincts, and now they rise like fangs in the night. It is not to harm you, but to awaken you. The psyche is merciful but relentless. It will give gentle hints, subtle nudges, but if you persist in ignoring its signals, it will send something sharper, a bite, a wound, a dream that shakes you to the core. There is also another layer to this symbol, the dog as shadow. Every archetype has a light side and a dark side. The loyal, protective dog can also become the feral, uncontrollable beast if left unacknowledged. This is true of all shadow elements within us. What we do not face becomes distorted. What we suppress becomes wild. The bite can signify the moment when your own shadow has grown teeth. Perhaps you have repressed anger and fear or desire for so long that it now manifests as self-destructive behavior, sabotaging relationships, careers, or even health. You might ask yourself, what part of me have I chained so tightly that it is now ready to bite through the leash? When I worked with patients, I often observed that the shadow revealed itself through the body. A clenched jaw, a restless tapping of the foot, tension that words could not explain. These were the ways the body expressed what the mind refused to acknowledge. The dog bite is an external mirror of this same principle. It says there is energy here, primal and raw, that must be integrated, not met, not killed, but brought into conscious relationship. The dog is not your enemy. It is the part of you that longs for wholeness. Wholeness is not achieved by being only good or civilized. It is achieved by embracing the full spectrum of what you are, even the parts you fear. This is the essence of individuation, the process by which a person becomes their true self. To individuate, you must descend into the shadow, into the forgotten archetypes, into the wild forest of your own psyche. The dog stands at the edge of this forest. It will not let you pass without courage. It may growl, it may bite, but it does so because the threshold you are approaching is sacred. The unconscious does not give its treasures freely. They must be earned through confrontation and humility. Think of the myths where heroes face beasts at the gates of the underworld. Cerberus, the three-headed hound of Hades, is not merely a monster. It is a test, a symbol of the instincts that must be acknowledged before one can enter the realm of deeper knowledge. To ignore Cerberus is to remain on the surface of life, forever distracted by trivialities, but to face him, to meet his gaze, is to step into a deeper relationship with the psyche. In a similar way, the dog that bites you is asking, will you face me? Will you listen to the instinct you have denied, or will you continue to live as a half shadow of yourself? The bite can also represent an initiation. In many shamanic traditions, the initiate is symbolically devoured by an animal spirit before being reborn as a healer or seer. This devouring is not punishment, but transformation. The old self must be broken so that the deeper self can emerge when life bites you, when pain, loss, or betrayal strike. It is often this same initiation. Something in you is being stripped of its illusions. Something is being asked to die so that something greater can be born. I ask you to consider the archetype you might be ignoring. Is it the wild one? The instinctual guardian who senses danger before your intellect? Is it the loyal protector who demands you be loyal to your own soul before you can be loyal to others? Or is it the shadow dog, the one who growls from the depths of your unconscious, carrying all the feelings and desires you have banished? To ignore these archetypes is to live as if asleep. To face them is to awaken, though awakening often begins with pain. Pain is not the enemy, it is the voice of transformation. When the dog bites, there is blood. Yes, but blood is also life. It is the reminder that you are alive, that you are vulnerable, that you are not just a mind floating above the world, but a creature of flesh and soul, connected to the rhythms of nature. In that moment of pain, you are reminded that life is not a concept to be managed, but a force to be experienced. There is a strange beauty in this realization. To be bitten is to be called back into the immediacy of being. It forces you to ask, where am I asleep? Where have I become numb to my own instincts? We live in a culture that fears pain, that numbs itself with distractions, with endless noise, with the illusion of control. But the unconscious is not fooled by these tricks. It waits patiently, like a dog at the gate. And when the time is right, it will bite not to destroy you, but to awaken you to the life you have been missing. I invite you to reflect on the dogs in your dreams, in your life, in your imagination. What do they represent to you? Are they companions or threats? Do they guide you or chase you? Each image is a mirror of your relationship with instinct, with loyalty, with a shadow. When a dog bites in a dream, it may be saying, pay attention. Something important is at stake. You are crossing a line and you need to see it. In waking life, a dog bite can be read the same way, a sudden event that forces you to reconsider what you have overlooked. And so the bite is not the end. It is the beginning of a dialogue. It is an invitation to look deeper, to ask the uncomfortable questions. Where have I ignored my own inner guardian? Where have I allowed fear or conformity to silence the truth? The archetype is patient but relentless. It will return again and again in dreams, in relationships, in patterns of fate, until you listen. When you ignore the archetype embodied by the dog, its presence does not vanish. It transforms and manifests in subtle yet powerful ways. You will see it in your relationships, in the patterns you repeat, in the inexplicable conflicts that seem to follow you. The archetype will find its way into your life because it is not merely a concept but a living current of the psyche. It cannot be suppressed forever, for it is part of the soul's architecture. To ignore it is to invite its shadow form, which emerges not as loyalty but as betrayal, not as protection but as sabotage. Consider the relationships you have built. Have you ever felt that someone you trust suddenly turned against you? Like a loyal dog that unexpectedly bites. This is not always about them. It is often a projection of what you have denied within yourself. In Jungian psychology, projection is the process by which we cast our own unconscious qualities onto others. We see them as either idealized or demonized versions of what we cannot accept in ourselves. If you have ignored your instinctual side, you may find yourself drawn to people who embody it for you. They might appear as fierce, wild, even dangerous, and yet you feel both attraction and fear. These encounters are mirrors, invitations for you to reclaim what you have disowned. There is a pattern that I have seen countless times. Those who fear their own anger will attract the anger of others. Those who suppress their own wildness will find themselves bitten by the wildness of life. It is as if the archetype, unacknowledged, seeks an external stage upon which to act out its drama. The dog, ignored within, becomes the dog outside, ready to attack or betray. But if you look carefully, you will see that the bite was always within you, waiting to be understood. Until you bring that force into consciousness, it will keep appearing in forms you cannot control. The shadow dog can also manifest as anxiety, that low growl in the depths of your being. Anxiety is often a signal of disowned instinct. It is the feeling of being hunted by something unseen because you have turned your back on the truth. When you are out of alignment with your soul, when you are living in a way that denies your deeper nature, the psyche protests. It sends dreams of being chased, dreams of snarling animals, dreams of being bitten. These are not random nightmares, they are messages. The dog in the dream says, turn around, face me. Do not run from the part of yourself that knows the way, the path of individuation, which I have spoken of so often, is the path of integration. It is not about becoming perfect or pure. It is about becoming whole. To be whole means to embrace both the light and the dark, both the civilized and the wild. It means recognizing that the dog, with its loyalty and its teeth, is part of you. You cannot banish it without banishing a vital part of your life force. Many people try to live only from the surface of their personality, the polite mask, the persona that seeks approval, but beneath the persona lies the shadow, and beneath the shadow lies the archetypal core, the wild heart of the psyche. If you ignore it, you will feel hollow, disconnected, and vulnerable to the bites of fate. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, standing before this archetypal dog. It is not a creature of flesh, but of energy, a guardian that watches the gate of your inner world. Its eyes are fierce but not cruel. Its presence is both terrifying and sacred. This is the part of you that demands truth. It does not care for social masks or for the polite lies we tell ourselves. It cares only for what is real. When you approach it with fear, it growls. When you approach it with denial, it bares its teeth. But when you approach it with honesty, when you acknowledge its presence, it becomes your ally. It will guard your boundaries, protect your soul's purpose, and guide you through the dark forest of transformation. To do this, you must learn the language of instinct. Instinct speaks in sensations, in subtle feelings, in the quiet voice that whispers, this path is wrong, or this person is dangerous. We often ignore these whispers because they cannot be explained logically, but the unconscious does not deal in logic. It deals in symbols, in the wisdom of countless generations that live within our blood and bones. When a dog bites you, in dream or reality, it is a demand to reconnect with this instinctive wisdom. It is a reminder that your rational mind is not the only guide you have. We live in a culture that prizes reason and analysis, but the soul is not built on these alone. The soul thrives on symbols, myths, and the language of the unconscious. It speaks through animals, through dreams, through sudden flashes of intuition. The dog archetype is one of these symbols, and its bite is a form of direct communication. It bypasses the mind and goes straight to the body, straight to the primal awareness that says, wake up. When you begin to honor this archetype, you will notice changes in your life. You will become more discerning, less easily deceived. You will sense the intentions of others, not by their words, but by the subtle signals they give. You will trust your gut feelings instead of dismissing them as irrational. This is not about becoming paranoid or aggressive. It is about reclaiming the ancient intelligence that lives within you, the intelligence of survival, of loyalty, of knowing where your true home is. There is another dimension to the dog bite that is often overlooked, its connection to the archetype of the wounded healer. In many myths, the hero or healer must suffer a wound that cannot be ignored. This wound becomes the source of wisdom, the key to understanding the suffering of others. When life bites you, when you experience pain, betrayal, or loss, it can awaken a deeper compassion. It can strip away the illusions of control and open your heart to the raw truth of existence. The wound, though painful, becomes sacred. It is the place where light enters, where transformation begins. In your own journey, you may find that the dog bite is not an external event, but an inner crisis, a breakdown, a moment of despair, a confrontation with your own shadow. These moments are not punishments, but invitations. They ask you to stop running, to face what you have buried, and to bring it into the light of awareness. Only then can it be transformed. The ignored archetype often carries gifts. The dog, in its positive aspect, offers loyalty, courage, and protection. If you have ignored these qualities in yourself, you may find that you lack boundaries, that you give your trust too easily, that you are wounded by the betrayal of others. But when you reclaim the archetype, you begin to stand in your own power. You learn to guard your energy, to discern who is worthy of your trust, to fight for what truly matters. Imagine the difference between living with a chained, snarling dog inside you and living with a loyal guardian at your side. The first life is one of fear and suppression, where you are always at war with yourself. The second is one of partnership, where instinct and consciousness work together. This is the goal of individuation, not to silence the archetypes, but to befriend them. There is a dream image that often arises when someone begins to work with this archetype. They dream of a dog that first chases them, but later becomes a companion. This shift reflects the inner transformation from fear to integration. At first, the instincts feel threatening because they are unknown, but as you face them, as you understand their purpose, they become allies The same is true of all shadow elements. What you fear most is often what you most need to embrace. The process of integration is not easy. It requires honesty, courage, and a willingness to feel the discomfort that arises when you confront the parts of yourself you have denied. But this is the path to freedom. When you accept the archetype of the dog, its bite, its loyalty, its wildness, you are no longer ruled by fear. You become whole. The dog bite, in all its symbolism, can be understood as a rite of passage, a threshold moment where the old self must yield to something deeper and more authentic. When we are bitten, whether physically or symbolically, we are thrust into a state of heightened awareness. Suddenly, the unconscious forces that we ignored become impossible to deny. The bite is like a lightning strike. It shocks, it hurts, but it illuminates everything it touches. It is a moment where the archetype we have neglected, the guardian we have tried to suppress, forces its way back into our narrative. Every rite of passage requires confrontation with fear. In ancient traditions, the initiates were often tested with symbols of death or wildness, animals, darkness, solitary trials in the wilderness. These were not acts of cruelty, but acts of awakening. To truly live, one must face the instincts and primal energies that live within, rather than pretending to be above them. The dog's bite is a modern echo of these ancient initiations. It is as though life itself is saying, you will not walk further on this path until you acknowledge your own shadow. You will not gain wisdom by denying the wildness that is part of your soul. It is fascinating how the psyche speaks through symbols and how these symbols appear everywhere once we start paying attention. A dog bite, for example, might be an event in waking life, but it also appears in dreams, stories, or sudden metaphors that seem to resonate in our hearts. The psyche uses whatever language will get our attention. The question is whether we are willing to listen. Too often, we dismiss these messages as random or meaningless. Yet, when we look closer, we see that they are pointing toward truths. We have avoided truths about our own instincts, our boundaries, our fears, and even our capacity for love. The archetype of the dog is tied not only to instinct, but also to loyalty and protection. And when this archetype is ignored, loyalty itself becomes corrupted. You may find yourself loyal to people who harm you, to beliefs that no longer serve you, or to patterns of behavior that keep you small and fearful. This is one of the most common forms of self-betrayal. You offer your loyalty outward, but not inward. You give your trust to everything except your own inner knowing. The bite, in this sense, is a violent but necessary wake-up call. It says, stop giving your life away. Return to the truth of who you are. I've often said that the unconscious does not care about our comfort, it cares about our wholeness. And wholeness requires that we confront the parts of ourselves we would rather ignore. The dog, as guardian, forces this confrontation. If you cannot face its growl, you cannot cross the threshold into deeper self-awareness. The bite is not meant to destroy you, but to strip away the illusions that keep you from your own strength. Every wound, if understood, carries wisdom. The question is whether you will allow the pain to open you or close you. Think of the stories where a hero is bitten or wounded before they can gain their power. In many myths, a wound or scar becomes the mark of initiation, the moment when the hero steps beyond the ordinary self into a relationship with something greater. The same is true in your life. When you experience a symbolic bite, a betrayal, a failure, a loss, it is not just a wound. It is an initiation into a deeper level of being. You are being asked to integrate what you have neglected. You are being asked to grow. Let me speak now about the shadow in greater depth, for this is where the archetype of the dog often resides. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the part of you that you do not see. It contains both darkness and light, both destructive impulses and creative power. Many people fear their shadow because they believe it will overwhelm them. But what we fear is often what we most need to integrate. When the shadow is ignored, it acts out in destructive ways, it bites, but when it is faced, when it is brought into consciousness, it becomes a source of strength and vitality. The dog, in its shadow form, represents those instincts. You have exiled anger, passion, sexuality, the need for freedom. These are not wrong in themselves. They become destructive only when denied. A chained instinct will eventually break its chain, and when it does, it may come with teeth, but if you acknowledge it, if you work with it consciously, it becomes a source of protection rather than harm. The very energy that once bit, you can become the energy that guides your path. There is a profound transformation that happens when you turn towards a bite rather than away from it. Most people try to avoid pain at all costs. They numb themselves with distractions, with endless busyness, with shallow comforts. But pain, when faced with awareness, is a doorway. It shows you where you are wounded, where you have betrayed yourself, where you have not yet claimed your true strength. The dog bite is not just a wound, it is a map. It points directly to the place in your soul that needs healing and integration. I want you to imagine for a moment that every dog you have ever feared or loved is a part of your own psyche. Each one is a guardian of some part of your being. The gentle dog is the guardian of your heart, your capacity to love, to trust, to be loyal. The fierce dog is a guardian of your boundaries, your ability to protect yourself and stand firm. And the wild, untamed dog is a guardian of your instincts, your raw life energy, your ability to sense danger and truth. When one of these dogs bites, it means that part of you has been ignored. It is not the dog's fault, it is your call to listen. Let us speak now of dreams. For dreams are the realm where archetypes roam freely. If you dream of being bitten by a dog, do not dismiss it. Ask yourself, what part of my life feels dangerous? Where have I betrayed my own instincts? Who or what is crossing my boundaries? Dreams often exaggerate to make their point. The bite in the dream is a way of saying, pay attention. There is something here that you are missing. And often, when you look closely, you will find that the dog represents a part of yourself, a part you have ignored, a part that now demands to be seen. The journey of individuation is filled with these moments of confrontation. You cannot become whole by avoiding them. You must face the dogs of your psyche, one by one, until you realize that they are not enemies but allies. Ich biete, each wound, each moment of pain is a teacher. And when you listen to these teachers, when you integrate their lessons, you find a strength and clarity that no external force can shake. The archetype you have been ignoring is not just about instinct or loyalty, it is about truth. The dog, in its deepest symbolism, is the one who knows the truth of who you are. It knows when you are lying to yourself, when you are living a life that is not yours. It will not let you pass unnoticed. It will bite, if necessary, to bring you back to your own center. This may feel harsh, but it is an act of fierce love. For what is more loving than the force that refuses to let you stay asleep in falsehood? And so the bite is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a new chapter. When you face the dog, when you acknowledge the archetype it carries, you begin to walk with a new kind of power. You are no longer a victim of your instincts, but a partner with them. You can feel their energy, their guidance, their warning, and you can act with clarity. This is not about taming the dog, but about forming a sacred bond with it, a bond of mutual respect. The moment you accept a bite as an initiation rather than a punishment, everything changes. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin to ask, what is this showing me? This shift, though subtle, is profound. It is the difference between being a victim of life's forces and being an apprentice to its mysteries. The dog bite, like any archetypal wound, does not come without purpose. It is not random. It is an encoded message from the deep layers of your psyche, telling you that you have reached a threshold, a place where something old must die for something new to emerge. The archetype of the dog, when fully understood, is not only the guardian but also the guide. Just as in ancient myths, the guardian at the gate could be both ferocious and protective. The dog bite is a signal that you have ignored the threshold for too long. Life will not allow you to pass without awareness. This is the nature of transformation. You cannot evolve by simply wishing for it. You must confront the forces that have kept you asleep. You must face the teeth of the archetype and allow them to strip you of what is false. Have you noticed how when an animal bites, it forces you into total presence? In that instant, there is no room for distraction, no place for the wandering mind. There is only the raw immediacy of life. Pain has this power. It pulls you out of illusions and throws you into the now. This is why the bite is sacred. It is the psyche's way of saying, wake up, you are alive. Stop living as though you are numb. Many of us live like sleepwalkers, repeating patterns, trapped in habits that no longer serve us. The dog bite, symbolic or real, is a jolt back into reality. The ignored archetype often shows up in moments of crisis. When the structures of your life collapse, when the relationships crumble or health fails, these moments are not just random misfortunes. They are the bites of the unconscious, demanding your attention. They are saying, look at what you have built. Is it true? Is it aligned with who you really are? Most of us resist these questions because they force us to face uncomfortable truths. But the longer we resist, the deeper the bite becomes, it is far better to listen early, to heed the growl before the teeth sink in. What does it mean to embrace the archetype of the dog? It means to cultivate a relationship with your instincts. It means listening to that quiet voice that tells you when something is off. It means respecting your boundaries and honoring the places where your energy must be protected. Too often, we let our energy be drained by people or situations that do not deserve it. We give our loyalty blindly, forgetting that loyalty without discernment becomes self-destruction. The dog teaches us that loyalty must be paired with vigilance. It must be rooted in self-respect. I have often seen how people suffer because they try to be endlessly kind, endlessly giving, endlessly accommodating. But this is not true kindness. True kindness has boundaries. It knows when to say no, when to growl, when to bite if necessary. The archetype of the dog embodies this balance. It is both loving and fierce. It will guard the home, but it will also defend it with its teeth. We too must learn this duality. We must learn to love without losing ourselves, to give without betraying our own essence. Let us speak of the dreams where the dog bite occurs. In these dreams, the bite is rarely an act of cruelty. It is a test, a challenge, a moment where the unconscious forces you to face what you have denied. Perhaps the dog bites your hand, the very hand that reaches for things it should not. Or perhaps it bites your leg, the limb that carries you down the wrong path. Each detail of the dream is symbolic. The place of the bite, the color of the dog, the feeling it evokes, these are all clues to the archetype at work. Dreams speak in this language of symbols, and if you learn to interpret them, they reveal the map of your inner world. What is remarkable is how often people fear their own instincts more than they fear the world outside. We have been taught to mistrust our inner voice, to silence the growl of intuition in favor of logic or social expectation. But logic alone cannot navigate the labyrinth of the soul. There are times when instinct knows what reason cannot. The dog, as a symbol, is the bridge between the rational and the instinctual. It is the reminder that both are necessary for wholeness. Imagine living a life where you no longer ignore these inner guardians. Imagine feeling the subtle signals that tell you when to advance and when to retreat, when to trust and when to hold back. This is not about becoming overly cautious or suspicious. It is about being awake. It is about living with the kind of awareness that animals have, an awareness that is fully present, fully alive, deeply connected to the rhythms of the world. This awareness is not foreign to you. It is your birthright. It has only been buried under layers of conditioning. The bite of the dog is the moment that conditioning cracks. It is the moment the soul says, enough of living on autopilot, enough of betraying what you know to be true. It may hurt, yes, transformation always does, but the pain is the price of awakening. To avoid it is to remain asleep, to keep walking in circles, to remain loyal to things that do not nourish your spirit. I want you to consider the story of your own life. Where have the bites occurred? Perhaps they were moments of heartbreak, betrayal, or sudden loss. At the time, they may have felt like disasters. But looking back, can you see how they changed you? Can you see how each wound taught you something about who you really are? The archetype is always at work, even when you do not recognize it. Its bite is often the very thing that sets you on a new path. When you embrace the bite as a teacher, you also embrace your own power. You stop waiting for others to protect you or validate you. You become your own guardian. You become the one who knows when to open the gate and when to close it, when to trust and when to defend. This is the gift of the dog archetype. It teaches you how to stand firm in your truth, how to live with both courage and compassion. And so I ask you, what archetype have you been ignoring? Is it the loyal protector who demands that you be loyal first to yourself? Is it the fierce instinct that warns you of danger? Is it the wild energy that wants to run free, that refuses to be caged by fear or conformity? Whatever it is calling to you now. The bite is not the end. It is the invitation. When you accept the bite, not as a curse, but as a passage, you begin to see life differently. Every sharp moment, every wound, every sudden upheaval takes on a new dimension. These moments are no longer meaningless or cruel. They become signals from the deep layers of your psyche. The dog bite becomes a symbol of awakening, a mark of initiation, a scar that tells the story of your encounter with truth. What you once feared as a punishment now reveals itself as a call to integration, a demand that you no longer live divided within yourself. To live divided is to live in conflict. It is to wear the mask of the persona while the wild instincts gnash their teeth in the shadows. Many people live this way, torn between the roles they play and the truths they feel. They smile when they want to scream. They obey when they want to rebel. They give when they long to guard their own boundaries. But the soul cannot thrive in such dishonesty. The archetype of the dog, whether it appears as the loyal companion, the fierce guardian, or the wild beast, asks for nothing but honesty. It asks you to honor your instincts, to respect your boundaries, and to listen to your inner growl when something is not right. I have seen countless lives transformed the moment someone stopped fearing the bite and started listening to what it was trying to say. A woman once came to me, broken by the betrayal of someone she trusted. She felt as though her entire world had turned against her. But as we spoke, it became clear that the betrayal was not the real wound. The true wound was her long-standing habit of betraying herself, of giving away her power, of ignoring her intuition when it warned her of danger. The betrayal was simply the bite that forced her to see what she had been unwilling to face. Through this pain, she awakened to her own instincts, her own inner guardian. She emerged stronger, clearer, and more whole. The process of individuation, of becoming whole, requires this kind of confrontation. You cannot become yourself while ignoring the forces that live within you. The dog bite is one of these forces, a reminder that life will not allow you to remain asleep forever. At some point, the archetype you have ignored will come to claim its place in your life. You can resist it, but resistance only makes the bite harder. Or you can meet it, face it, and learn from it. This is the path of courage, the path of the hero who enters the underworld, not to destroy the beasts, but to understand them. In many cultures, dogs are associated with the afterlife. They are seen as guides who lead the soul through the unknown. This is not accidental. The dog, as an archetype, represents the threshold between life and death, between consciousness and the unconscious. To be bitten by the dog is to be reminded of this threshold. It is to be reminded that life is not just a surface game of comfort and routine. There is depth beneath the surface, and that depth demands to be explored. Pain is often the first step on this journey, for pain shatters the illusions we cling to. I ask you now, what illusions have you clung to? What lies have you told yourself to avoid facing the truth? Have you told yourself that you are powerless, when in fact you have simply forgotten your instincts? Have you told yourself that you must be endlessly kind and giving, when in truth you need to learn the sacred art of saying no? These are the kinds of illusions the dog bite destroys. It does not ask for permission. It simply tears through what is false so that the real can emerge. The archetype of the dog also teaches us about loyalty, but loyalty of the highest kind. True loyalty is not blind. It is not about sacrificing yourself to please others. It is about standing firm in your values, your boundaries, and your soul's truth. It is about being loyal first to yourself, for only then can you offer true loyalty to others. If you betray yourself, all other loyalties are empty. The bite often comes when you have given your loyalty to something unworthy, an idea, a person, or a system that drains your spirit. The pain of the bite is the call to reclaim your loyalty, to turn it inward where it belongs. When you integrate this archetype, something remarkable happens. You no longer fear your own instincts. You no longer doubt your intuition. You become both grounded and alert, capable of sensing what others miss. You walk through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that your inner guardian is awake. This does not mean you will never face challenges or betrayals, but it means you will no longer be blindsided by them. You will see the signs. You will hear the growl before the bite. The dog bite is also connected to the archetype of the protector. And this archetype is deeply needed in our world today. We live in times of great distraction, where the line between truth and illusion is often blurred. Many people are lost, not because they lack intelligence, but because they have lost touch with their instincts. They no longer know who to trust, what to believe, or how to guard their own energy. The dog archetype calls us back to this primal wisdom. It says, be alert, protect what is sacred. Do not allow your energy to be devoured by those who would misuse it. To embrace the dog archetype is to cultivate what I call soulful vigilance. It is not paranoia or fear, but a deep awareness of the unseen currents that shape your life. It is a readiness to act when instinct calls. It is the courage to bite, if necessary, not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. This is what I mean when I say that every archetype must be integrated. You cannot live fully while rejecting the very forces that give you life. I have often spoken of the shadow, and the dog bite is a perfect metaphor for how the shadow operates. The shadow is not malicious. It is simply the part of you that seeks to be recognized. When you ignore it, it grows restless. When you deny it, it becomes aggressive. But when you face it, When you look into its eyes and listen to what it is saying, it becomes your greatest ally. The dog bite is the moment the shadow says, I am here. You cannot ignore me any longer. There is a strange grace in this realization. To be bitten is to be marked, and that mark is a reminder of the path you have walked. It is a reminder that you have faced something wild and survived. Many people fear the wildness within them, but it is this very wildness that holds their vitality, their creativity, their courage. The dog bite, when understood, is an initiation into that wildness. It is the soul's way of saying, do not forget who you are. And so I leave you with this question: what dog within you is growling for attention? What archetype have you tried to chain or silence? The time has come to meet it. Not with fear, but with respect. Let it teach you, let it show you where your boundaries lie, where your instincts are strong, where your loyalty must return to yourself. This is the path of individuation, the path of wholeness. It is not easy, but it is the only path worth walking. When you embrace this path, when you integrate the archetype of the dog, you become something extraordinary. You become both gentle and fierce, both grounded and free. You walk with the loyalty of one who knows their own worth. You protect what is sacred within you. And in doing so, you bring a deeper truth into the world. This is the gift of the bite. It wounds you, yes, but it also awakens you. And once you are awake, nothing can put you back to sleep.